invoice scams aren't going away. Scammers are always looking for new ways to steal your personal details or money, and over the past few months, an exploit in PayPal's invoice system is being used to create convincing phishing messages. Here's how the scam works. PayPal allows sellers to create invoices, which can then be sent to customers' PayPal account to pay for a product or service. However, PayPal doesn't seem to do a great job when it comes to checking if invoices are legitimate or not. Recently, scammers have been using invoices to trick people into sending money to other accounts. It's not clear when this method became popular, but there are reports going back as far as 2020 and earlier. The scam involves sending a PayPal user an email telling them to pay for something. The email received identified the sender as the billing department of PayPal, with a message saying $1,000 has been debited to your account from the Walmart e-gift card purchase, and that it should contact a phone number for customer support. Another version, identified by the Virginia Commonwealth University, asks for $450 for Bitcoin crypto, with a different phone number listed. Apparently, the only similarities between all the messages are, "Here's your invoice," or "Invoice updated" at the top, and a button that says "View and Pay Invoice." Unfortunately, those also appear for legitimate invoices from actual businesses. The emails are sent through the same service@paypal.com email address as other account notifications, making them seem more legitimate. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and get involved. Here's a tip on how to avoid the scam. The easiest way to ignore this specific attack is to not pay any invoices for a product or service you didn't purchase. However, invoices are different than purchase notifications. If PayPal sent you a confirmation email for purchasing an item, then someone might have stolen your PayPal account, and you should contact PayPal customer support right away. If you receive a sketchy email or message about PayPal payments, you should go to paypal.com or the apps for iPhone and Android instead of clicking any links from the message. The activity page on your PayPal profile will show any recent payments or requests, and you can check for any invoices from the activity page by clicking Status and then Invoices to Pay. Hopefully, PayPal will crack down on invoice abuse, so this won't be a common occurrence anymore. PayPal isn't alone either. The popular money transfer service Zelle and many other well-known services are also frequent targets for scammers. Thanks to Corbin Davenport for his excellent article on this topic published on How to Geek. Stay safe, stay secure, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Your heart and your watch, what seniors must know. There are new features coming to some smartwatches that will make these a must for seniors. In this video, we'll look at what these features are, what watches will be affected, and why it is so important that you as a senior watch this video. It's Ron Brown with Tech for Senior, where we make videos to help seniors understand technology. Today, though, I'm going to take my YouTube creator's jacket off and put on my medical jacket. Yes, I'm going to draw on the 35 years of experience I've had looking after people as a family physician and working in emergency departments. So today I want to talk to you about some significant changes that are occurring to smartwatches that will make these invaluable for seniors. So you need to know what a very common heart condition is called atrial fibrillation. Now in this graph, you're going to see, and this is from my very popular Saving Your Life with Wearable Technology. As you can see in this graph, that over the age of 60, the incidence of atrial fibrillation goes up exponentially. This is so important for you to understand. Let's have a look at actually what atrial fibrillation is. So in this diagram, you'll see that there are 4 chambers in a heart. There are the 2 upper chambers called the atrium, and there are the 2 big chambers at the bottom called ventricles. So the 2 chambers in the heart at the top, the atrium, contract down, putting blood into the bottom big chambers that pump the blood out. Now the right ventricle goes to the lung, and the left ventricle, of course, is the big one that goes to the rest of the body. So that's how the blood flows through our heart. Now in atrial fibrillation, there's a problem. In other words, those 2 chambers in the top, those atrium, start to speed up. And oh my gosh, they go awful fast. They get going at a rapid rate so that they're just quivering. They're not actually contracting down. Now you're going to say, oh my gosh, that's terrible. You'd probably die. But that's not the case. Most people with atrial fibrillation can live very normal lives. In fact, the problem is they don't even know they have the condition. There's a stopgap between those top 2 chambers and the bottom chambers, so the bottom chambers just keep contracting down. And it turns out that you don't need those top 2 chambers to push blood down into those bottom 2 chambers. So what happens is this, is that atrial fibrillation occurs, and it occurs when you don't even notice you have any symptoms. That's the problem. So the top 2 chambers all of a sudden go very rapid. They're sort of fluttering, and they're not actually contracting down. Now what this does is this causes clots in those big atrial chambers, and the blood clots then can move down into the ventricles. In the case of the left ventricle, goes up into the brain and causes strokes. And that's why atrial fibrillation is the 3rd cause of stroke. So, and people don't know they have it. So this is why it's so important that as a senior we understand what atrial fibrillation is, and that there can be no symptoms of that, and you just end up with a disease that you don't want. You don't want to have a stroke, right? So how can watches help with this? What advantages would there be in purchasing a smartwatch? Well, the 3 that I've talked about before and done a number of videos about are, of course, the Apple Watch, the Galaxy 4 watch, and the Fitbit Sense. Now, why is this so important? Well, these 3 watches have a unique feature that they can do. Not only can they do what we call an ECG, but they can interpret the ECG and tell you if you have atrial fibrillation. These have all had scientific studies behind them, and all are approved by the FDA in the United States. They're also approved in Canada and many other countries around the world because they have the data to back up how they're doing this. So what happens is these watches can do an ECG. The ECG on the watch gets interpreted, and it will tell you immediately when we do the ECG if you have atrial fibrillation or you don't. So that's pretty cool. It will certainly do that. And these watches work in conjunction with a cell phone. So these watches, of course, are paired with a cell phone. This data is then stored in a PDF format on your smartphone. This, of course, can be shown to your healthcare provider. It can be emailed to your healthcare provider, or of course, it can be sent to your cardiologist. The studies have shown this is very accurate. Now, you must understand that an ECG done on your watch is not like the ECG we do in hospitals. In the hospital, when we do a 12-lead ECG, we can look at the past, present, and future of your heart. It gives us a lot of data. The ECG that we do on these smartwatches only has one specific function, and that is to tell if you have or have not got atrial fibrillation. It doesn't tell you if you have a heart attack. It doesn't tell you if you need to go to the hospital. None of that is true. All as the ECG function does is it tells you if you have atrial fibrillation. So let's look at how this would work. Well, you would maybe get a fluttering in your chest, maybe you get a bit of shortness of breath. You start to feel a bit unwell. You then have to activate the ECG on your watch. So there are many different ways you go about that. You could push the crown, the face. There's a bunch of different ways these watches work, but essentially you have to activate your watch to do the ECG. So then the watch usually asks you to be quiet, seated in a spot, and then you can actually, it will do the ECG for you. It then interprets it and says, hey, you either have atrial fibrillation or you don't have atrial fibrillation, and that you should check with your healthcare provider regarding this. It then saves that, and it saves it to your smartphone as a PDF format. Now, the problem with this is, as I told you earlier, is that many patients don't know they have atrial fibrillation. Atrial fibrillation doesn't always cause symptoms. So if you don't have any symptoms, how are you going to activate the watch to do an ECG? This does not continually monitor your heart and tell you if you have atrial fibrillation. Wouldn't that be great if you could wear your watch and it would continually monitor your heart and tell you if your heart ever went into atrial fibrillation? That would be a game changer. And folks, that is the game changer we're going to talk about today. All right, this is great news. And the continuous monitoring of your heart rate has been approved for the Apple Watch in the United States and Canada. And it will occur later this fall with Watch OS 9. Now, the great feature of this is it will work on the older watches, so you don't have to spend any more money. The watch, the Apple Watch you have now, this will occur on it. It is just a software update. This is likely going to occur with the Fitbit series as well, as there is a big study that is just completing with the Fitbit line to confirm the same. The sophisticated sensors in the back of these watches on the back surface monitor your heart. And with a software change, we can monitor them on a 24-hour basis. This is going to be a game changer, folks. You'll be able to wear your watch 24/7, and it's going to tell you if you have had any history of atrial fibrillation. It's going to track your heart on a 24/7 basis. It's going to tell how long your heart was in atrial fibrillation. It's going to tell us the time, the amount of time it was in atrial fibrillation, and what time of day or week it was most active. This is valuable information for healthcare providers. When I was practicing medicine, this would have been a game changer for me. Because, of course, what we want to do is know is if patients remain in atrial fibrillation after we've treated them for them. Some of the treatment for atrial fibrillation is to get you out of atrial fibrillation, whether it's through surgery or medication. We want you to be out of atrial fibrillation, or if you're going to stay in atrial fibrillation, you need to be anticoagulated. So we need to know what your heart is doing on a continuous basis, and this solves the problem, folks. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for. At the American Heart Association in 2021, Google presented their Fitbit study to evaluate atrial fibrillation involving 450,000 people that took part. The algorithm Google used correctly identified atrial fibrillation in 98% of the time. Now, the exciting part about this was that it was done using a wide variety of Fitbit devices, not just the Fitbit Sense. It is possible with the software change that most of the Fitbit line can now continuously monitor you for atrial fibrillation. And we know that around 12 million people in the United States this year will have atrial fibrillation. And this certainly is more prevalent with advancing age, hypertension, and obesity. So it is so important that we identify these folks so we can get treatment and, of course, prevent the complications such as stroke, congestive heart failure. So we expect to see this fall changes in the software to Apple and Google software that will allow continuous monitoring for atrial fibrillation, which will be a big help in the medical management of this very serious condition. In summary, let's look at what we've learned today. The first thing is you now understand the word atrial fibrillation and should know what it is. The second thing you learned today is that it's common, and it's even more common after the age of 60, and 16 million patients in the United States will have a period of atrial fibrillation this year. And 3 is you now know that it is the third leading cause of stroke. The good news is, of course, we have the Apple Watch, the Fitbit Sense, and the Galaxy Watch 4 that have been approved by the FDA and in Canada for the evaluation of atrial fibrillation. And now on your watch, with the click of a button, you can now do an ECG, which is interpreted and will tell you if you have atrial fibrillation or not. But after today's seminar, you now know that a lot of people don't have symptoms with atrial fibrillation. But the good news is coming, because Apple has now confirmed that with Apple Watch OS 9, we'll be able to continually track and monitor for atrial fibrillation on a 24-hour basis. And this will be available on most Apple Watches. You won't have to go and buy a new watch. You've also learned today that Google is following suit with this, and I expect a big announcement since their Fitbit study was done in 2021. I expect probably a big announcement with the introduction of their new Google Watch this fall. This will have the new version of Android Wear on it, and will likely see a continuous monitoring as Apple has done. The technology is there. I'm excited about this. I think this is going to be a big feature. Well, it's Ron Brown with Tech for Senior. Just before we sign off, I just want to remind everybody I did the statistics on our channel lately, and I found that only 1 in 10 people are subscribed. If you want to keep updated on your health and get notifications when we make new videos, please click the notification and subscribe. We'll have many more videos about this continuous atrial fibrillation monitoring as it becomes available this fall. Until we see you again, have a great day.
Today, I'm going to show you how to find anything using everything on a PC. I'm Hewie Poplock. That's right. I like to find files quickly. Windows doesn't really give us a chance to do so. I'm going to use a program that I've talked about many times, but I've never really demonstrated in detail. We're going to try to do that today, using Everything by Void Tools. You use Windows Search or Cortana, you'll find a few files on your system, and then it'll say, well, let's go to Windows Explorer and see what we can find. When you do that, and you put in your search, you will find that it takes quite a bit of time. I have 3 screen captures here. The first one about 5 minutes in, the second one about 9 minutes in, and the last one about 30 minutes in when it finally finished. So it takes a long time just to find one term when you're searching with Windows Explorer. When you are searching using everything, as soon as you open it, it's ready to go and it finds everything within a second. This is the website, voidtools.com, where you can download the installer, where you can download a portable version as well. Let's take a look at a live demo. Let's open up everything. As soon as we do, it's there and we can start searching. So let's use the term CFCS to search, and it now has found 1,540 objects. It does the folders first, and as we scroll down, you can see there's a lot of items there. As we scroll down, then we get the files. There's some that are Excel spreadsheets and PDF files and all kinds of files, and we can sort in several ways, and we're going to take a look at some different ways in which we can sort. First, we are sorting alphabetically with the folders at the top. If we click the name, we reverse that. So now we're starting at the Z under the files, then we go to the folder. So we can search alphabetically from A to Z, Z to A. We can sort by the path, and then we can reverse that, and it will do the G and C. And I'm going to talk about how you set that up in a moment. You can do by size. So you can have the largest file at the top. In this case, it's 2 gigabytes. Or you can go to the smallest. Those are folders, so there's not sizes, but then we start at 1K. Or you can go by date modified to the date that I'm recording this, which is the 7th of August. Or you can reverse it and go to the oldest file using the CFCS by folder is 2012. The oldest file by itself is 1998 on my hard drive. Now there's different views you can have. Right now we're looking at the details. You can have medium thumbnails, you can have large thumbnails, and you can have extra large thumbnails. Let's look at different items that you can search. You can search everything, which is what we're set at now, but you can only look at audio files, compressed files, documents, executables, just folders, just pictures, or just videos. Another thing that we can do under View, we can have a preview window. That means if we click this, we see a preview of it. So you can adjust that. But you can also adjust your column sizes so we can have all the information and see it here. You see the ability to change, and it changes very quickly. There's a couple of things I want to show you under Tools and under Options. First one is Folders. I have a D drive, which is an SD card, and G is my Google Drive. So I can search my Google Drive as well by adding it under folders. And I can exclude certain things. I don't want to show hidden files in folders. I don't want to show any system file. And in most cases, when I'm looking for a file, I'm not looking for something. It's going to be either hidden or a system file. If I'm sure that that's what a file is that I'm looking for, then I might want to uncheck those. But I'm going to keep them checked. I'm going to say, oh, it does take a few seconds when you make that. Now it's sorting them. And it's done. So now it doesn't have any of the hidden files or any of the system files. So if I type in Hewie, you will see all of the folders that have Hewie, but let's now search for any video files that have my name in it. And you will see that there are several. They're right there. I want to look at any document that has my name in it. You will see that even documents, if I click on it, I will get, sometimes takes a few seconds for it to load the file to show you the preview. I want to look for pictures, and then I can go back to search everything. Now let's say I want to find Chromebook. You can see I have a lot of files there. And if I wish, I only want to find on G, I want to look at my Google Drive, and you can see that it shows everything that's on my Google Drive. So I put a space there in the word screen. I will see the word screen and only those items that are on my Google Drive. So people ask, can I search my Google Drive? Well, this is a way which you can search your Google Drive. You're not going to do it from your Chromebook, but you can do it from your PC. Find what you want, know where it is, and then go to your Chromebook and then work with it. Let's look at a few ways that I use everything. First, I want to find some files that I know were in the folder when I was working on Website of the Week. And as I start to type in website, you'll notice that it keeps changing with each letter. And as I continue to type, it found all of the Website of the Weeks. I'm looking for something in 13. So I'm going to come down here to that folder. And it could be even a file where that folder is. But I'm going to find that folder. And I'm going to right mouse click. And I'm going to come up here to Open Path. I'm going to click on Open Path. It opens up my Windows Explorer to that folder and all of the files and subfolders that are there. Then I can find the file that I'm looking for. I'm looking for a file that I created in a program called Microsoft Publisher. I know all of the files that Publisher creates are .pub. So if I hit the star or asterisk .pub, it will find the asterisk is a wildcard. So it'll find any file that has the extension pub. So I can come down here, I can find what I'm looking for, and I know that it's that file, or it probably is. I can tell it to open the path. It opens the folder that has that file in it, and then I can pick and choose which one I want to use. Often I lose a file. I might save it and can't remember where I saved it to right after I saved it, or I was clicking and dragging a file and dropped it in the wrong place. Now, how would I find it? Well, let's give an example. I'm going to open up a web page. I'm still on Vid Tools, and let's say I want to find support and everything, and there's something on here that I want to capture. So I do a screen capture. I happen to use a program called Snagit. You may use something else, but this is what I'm using. So we're going to take this information. We're going to tell it, okay, grab it and save it and save as, and we'll say test number 1. And I say save, and I close. It saved it. I close this. I didn't pay attention to where I was saving it. So how do we do that? We'll minimize this. We called it. Doesn't matter what we called it. Maybe I don't even remember what I called it. What am I going to do? I am going to look under date modified, but I know that I saved it as a JPEG. So let's first tell it we want to look for pictures. Now we're going to go to date modified. We're going to sort, find the last one, and there it is right at the top because it's the last picture that I saved. I just click on it. I can look at the preview, and that's what I wanted. And here is where it is. And so I can now right mouse click and open the path. Okay, it's in the articles for the blog. It's for this article, but maybe that's not where I want it. I can place it wherever I want now that I know where it is, and I can even rename it if I didn't like the title that I was using. So very quickly, you can find what you last saved, even if you can't remember the name or where you saved it to. How to find anything using everything on a PC? I'm Hewie Poplock.